know, Champions League predictions and previews time. Yes, some really, really exciting matchups, and I'll break it down a bit and then let you know who I'm leaning toward to advance. And I would love to have you tell me your picks below. Always fun for me to read through them. Also, some housekeeping here, guys. Important stuff. For those of you who do tune in for the UCL This Week series out every Thursday after the matches, I will not be able to do it this upcoming week as I will be away. I still have 2 videos already scheduled for you guys next week, so there will be content for you. Don't worry about that, but no UCL This Week next week. No This Week next week. This one is Champions League heritage. I'm sure everyone has something they think of when these two sides face off. For some reason, mine is the Ulrich disaster. I know, not exactly the pinnacle of football. There are other moments of high-class football between these two that you should think of. But that mistake from Sven Ulrich was, thanks to a mistake from Tolisso, actually, it's just so bizarre that I can't get it out of my head. Anyway, that aside, if we continue this look back on history, Real Madrid are unbeaten in their last 8 meetings with Bayern, which is a pretty incredible record. The last time they faced each other, it was as if the football gods struck Manuel Neuer with lightning, that uncharacteristic mistake which led to Joselu's 2-goal turnaround from the 88th minute onward. Honestly, what's with this matchup and Bayern keepers making absolutely crucial tie-deciding mistakes like that? It's weird. But across history, each side has 12 wins and 4 draws between them. Now, coming into this matchup, Real Madrid is the more difficult of the two sides to get a clear reading on, as they are a team that is showing signs of improvement, but they are still a team with vulnerabilities. But then again, they are still Real Madrid in the Champions League. They find a way through somehow, some way, no matter their form. And speaking of form, they have important players in Valverde and Vinicius Jr. who are really finding their form. They have Bellingham trying to find his form again, and they have Mbappe returning from his strange, mysterious which knee is it injury. They will be missing, however, Thibaut Courtois, someone who has been a season saver for them on many, many occasions throughout his time with Real Madrid, especially in this competition where he has made up for any deficiencies that Real Madrid's backline may be dealing with in that moment. But still, it's not like, Lunin is a bad choice. He showed his worth in the 23-24 season where he got Real Madrid to the final. No Rodrigo, of course. Militao is a maybe. Ceballos is injured. Vinicius had a knock, but will probably be fine, it seems. On Bayern's side, they're hoping Jamal Musiala will be available, as he has been in and out of fitness since that terrible leg break at the Club World Cup. But other than that, Alphonso Davies will be touch and go. Neuer has returned, and Pavlovic is back in team training as well. So the core of the squad is available. Where Real Madrid can really hurt Bayern is through Bayern's poor defending of set pieces, something that the likes of Antonio Rudiger and Bellingham even could punish them with. Bayern's back line in general is, for me, their weakest part of the pitch. That's not to say that they are terrible defensively or anything like that, just that compared to the goalkeeper, midfield, and attack, it lags behind, despite Upamecano having a very good season. No Upamecano this season. Now that's similar to Real Madrid in a way, as their defense looked good for a time under Xabi Alonso, but through the changing of formations and systems and managers and sprinkle in injuries as well, they have often looked vulnerable. While I think that Kane won't necessarily relish going up against Rudiger, he scored just twice in 9 matches against Rudiger. He's a player that will drop deeper into pockets to get on the ball and make himself useful, try to drag Rudiger away, and thus make room for Luis Diaz, Olise, or Gnabry to exploit. And I think this manipulation of the backline will cause a lot of problems for Real Madrid, not to mention how Real's left-back position is a little bit up in the air. Ferland Mendy could be back in time. Fran Garcia could start. Carreras, who knows? Whoever it is, they will be against Olise, one of the best attackers in the world at this time. But it's not like Bayern's fullbacks are going to have a night off or something. Real Madrid's right will likely have Valverde and Güler occupying those spaces, maybe Brahim floating in there as well, depending if he plays or not. The left, of course, will have to put up with Vinicius Jr., Bellingham, and Mbappe. So there will be goals in this tie. And for me, I think Bayern is going to finally overcome this Real Madrid hoodoo. Maybe this time their keepers won't make a freak mistake that costs them the tie. But honestly, the way Bayern's attack is firing at the moment, I mean, Serge Gnabry coming back to life. Luis Diaz is unbelievable. Elise had been, you had people talking about him being the best attacker in the world at times this season. And a Harry Kane who can score in a multitude of ways. All against a Real Madrid that will be without Courtois, which for me changes the view of this tie. I see Bayern just getting past Real, but of course, those football gods can strike them down at any moment with a mistake out of nowhere. Now, in the last episode of UCL this week, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned how Sporting could be a banana skin for Arsenal. This could be a trap game for them, which, in case you aren't familiar, a trap game is when an opponent overlooks a weaker one because they're already kind of looking ahead to the next more important match or whatever, which I don't think Arsenal are going to do, but any size of relief or anything that contributes to a feeling of comfortability with playing against Sporting is a huge, huge mistake. Sporting finally broke Bodo, a team that claimed the heads of Man City, Atletico, Inter, and nearly Sporting as well, who had to turn around a 3-0 deficit in the second leg, and they won 5-0. That's not nothing. They've shown how they can be ball dominant against certain teams, but I don't see that happening against Arsenal. Against Arsenal, you can refer to their playbook for their PSG victory, I think. Sit tight, keep the match close, then strike from set pieces and counters, utilizing their talented wide players like Catamo, Araujo, etc., to both advance the ball and play in dangerous balls from the flanks. Hjulmand is a dominant midfielder, has a great partnership with Morita, and of course, up front, Luis Suarez has been in fantastic form. Before the international break, he had 8 goals and 1 assist in the last 8 matches for Sporting. In all, 33 goals and 7 assists in 42 appearances is not bad. Instinctive finisher, pretty lethal. However, Arsenal boasts a striker who has proven to be lethal against Portuguese opposition in Victor Gyökeres. Except he never played against Sporting, of course, but still, it will be very interesting to see how he does against his former club, playing in a country where he was such an unbelievable attacker, playing in the very stadium where he had such an incredible goals record. The rest of the attack has been stuttering a bit lately, as Saka has not looked like himself, perhaps missing Odegaard. Eze has found form, but now picked up an injury. Madueke is also out now. As of the time of recording, we don't know for how long. There are quite a few potential injuries that Arteta will have to deal with. 10 players of Arsenal's pulled out of international duty, from Saliba and Gabriel to Zubimendi and Rice. How serious the injuries are unknown at the time of recording this on March 31st. But my assumption was that these were precautionary pullouts. It makes it difficult to analyze this Arsenal squad, but assuming they were precautionary and all of these fellas will be available, then Arsenal would still be the favorites. Yes, they have been unconvincing and dealt a blow in losing the Carabao Cup. Winning things sets a habit of winning things. The longer time goes without a trophy or with a trophy failure, the harder it gets to get one over the line, right? So it does have the makings of a Sporting surprise. It very well could happen, though Arsenal have faced Sporting 5 times in their history and never lost to them. If ever there was a time you would want to face this Arsenal, it would be now. I think that this tie will be closer than perhaps a lot of Arsenal supporters would expect, but Arsenal to get the win in the end. And now we have an all-Spanish quarterfinal as Atleti and Barcelona will play each other this weekend in La Liga at the Metropolitano, before then heading to the Camp Nou midweek for the Champions League, and then the second leg a week later at the Metropolitano. Again, they'll be sick of the sight of each other. Atleti have a huge month as well, with the Copa del Rey final also coming up. Which honestly, Atleti is typically sick at the sight of Barcelona in general, as their record against them has been poor for years. That 4-0 win was quite the outlier. Just look at Diego Simeone's record against FC Barcelona. In 43 matches against them, he has managed to win just 7 times with 12 draws and 24 losses. That is an incredibly damning figure. However, if you want to look at it this way, when they have met in the Champions League, Atleti have managed to advance on both occasions, and in those seasons made the Champions League final. So is this what's on the cards for Atleti? A Champions League final in Griezmann's final season? We'll see. They need to be way, way better defensively. As I've talked about at length on the channel in various videos, they are not a defensive team anymore. They haven't been for a couple of seasons now, as their goals against have gone up. I mean, 2 UCL ties in a row. Atleti scored and conceded a ton. They beat Club Brugge 7-4 on aggregate and beat Tottenham 7-5 on aggregate. In the Copa del Rey, they did indeed beat Barcelona 4-3 on aggregate. Huge performance at home and nearly lost it all at the Camp Nou. A place Diego Simeone has suffered, as he got a win away to Barcelona for the first time in his entire career last season. And that wasn't even at the Camp Nou. Guy has never won there. Not a great sign. But Barcelona aren't exactly immune to an implosion defensively either, right? It can happen. I mean, Atleti trashed them 4-0 this season. But Rafinha led that comeback attempt in the second leg. The thing is, Rafinha will not take part in this tie at all, as he picked up a hamstring injury yet again this season. It's been a rough one for him with the hamstring. This time while on international duty, that's a huge loss for Barcelona. Of the 15 matches they have already played without him this season, they lost 5 of them and drew 1. Of course, with Lamine, you still have one of the best players in the world who can score and assist, who can carve up defenders and pluck chances and goals from thin air. And it looks as if Barcelona can expect Frankie de Jong to be back for potentially the first leg, which is massive if he does indeed make it, maybe as a substitute, as well as Koundé, Balde, and Eric Garcia. They could be back as soon as the weekend. For Atleti, Jan Oblak is going to be touch and go, but in his stead, Juan Musso has been very good, and Pablo Barrios could be back for the second leg as things stand. Now, before the Rafinha injury, the outcome of this tie seemed a lot more clear. With his form, as well as Barcelona's record against Atletico Madrid, it seemed to me like Barcelona would go through with relative ease, keyword being relative, but with him out of the picture, someone who is instrumental to Barcelona's second leg wins over Newcastle and Atleti, combined with the chaotic but still effective nature of Atletico, it's a little more blurry. It brings this tie closer, but I do think with the returning cast of Barcelona, with Lewandowski starting to score again for club and country, and that terrible Atletico record, I think Barcelona gets through them. And finally, we have a rematch of last season's round of 16. Remember that first leg where PSG were smothering Liverpool, only for Harvey Elliott to score that goal at the death completely against the run of play to nick that result. Then PSG finally beat Alisson in the second leg. Alisson was forced into more saves at Anfield, but PSG eventually won on penalties. Well, they get to run it again, except one round deeper into the competition after Liverpool managed to overcome Galatasaray fairly comfortably in the end after that first leg scare, and PSG smashed Chelsea 8-2. That win for Liverpool could have been a marker of improvement upon their season, but they followed it up with yet another loss domestically, this time against Brighton, their 15th loss of the season across all competitions. That's pretty crazy to say, but when you watch them play, accidental rhyme, you can see why they have struggled. The attack goes quiet and predictable. The midfield organization is caught in between a rock and a hard place, as Slot looks like he wants to play a midfield 2 in front of that back line, but has McAllister and Szoboszlai, whom he needs to accommodate further up the pitch, or play at right back now and then if you're Dominic Szoboszlai. And that's the other thing. The right back position is a bit exposed, which makes you wonder how they will get on with Kvaratskhelia and Nuno Mendes flying down that flank. The Georgian in particular is hitting great form now, as he scored 3 goals against Chelsea, scored a couple for Georgia recently too in this international break, and just generally looks almost unplayable at times with his close control, his speed, his power. Him cutting inside from the left is terrifying with that curled, powered strike. You also have Doué, who seems to be getting a little bit better, but still inconsistent. Barcola was solid against Chelsea, but for me is still a bit wasteful in front of goal. And Dembele is great when he's healthy, but that's been hard to come by this season. He's been old Dembulance at times this season, but is healthy at the moment. Speaking of injuries, Alisson seems like he's still out, even though things are unclear as far as his timeline. Isak is back in training and will probably feature. Could be a boost if he's at his best, but that would be asking a lot of him. And both Ekitike and Salah should be back. Fabian Ruiz is close to returning for PSG. Barcola's training alone at the time of recording, and Mayulu should be good to go also. I've made mention of how PSG's defense doesn't, to me at least, seem to be as good as last season. Well, the stats actually proved me wrong and say otherwise when compared to their Ligue 1 performances defensively last season. And this comes despite not having a true number one goalkeeper. It was Chevalier early in the season, but Safonov has made his way into the starting position of late and performed quite decently. I think that Luis Enrique will be able to pick apart this Liverpool team and truly exploit their weaknesses, as PSG seem like their form is picking up to close out this season. After thrashing Chelsea, they followed that up with a thrashing of Nice. And while I don't believe Liverpool will get thrashed by PSG, I think PSG get through with a couple of goals between them. All right, so that means that I see the semifinals as being PSG versus Bayern and FC Barcelona versus Arsenal. That's pretty fun. We'll see if it happens, but as always, leave your picks below and I'll see you next week. Kind of. I will not be home, but there will be content, so I'll kind of see you. Okay? Bye-bye.